Hey guys, and welcome to the Dust Review. Today I'm going to be reviewing a game that I thought was going to be kind of meh, but actually turned out to be a pretty decent game. And that is the Catan Card Game. If you guys are big fans of Catan, then this game is perfect for you. If you're not a big fan of Catan, well, keep watching the video, because this game, while it has elements of Catan, it's completely separate in its mechanics. Let's open up this tiny box and let's see what's inside. Now, on your turn, first what you do is you always first roll the die. Now this die does two different things. There's an event die, which I'll get to in a minute, and then you have the production die. Now, whichever roll the production die lands on, each person gains a resource in that type. So for instance, I rolled a 3 in this roll. So I look and see, and my ore is on 3. Now, the way that you gain resources in the card game is you just rotate the card so that you see the two, or you see one more. This board is facing you guys. So, I gained 1 ore. At that point, you then take your actions. You're going to have 3 cards in your hand at the beginning of the game. Then you can either play action cards or you can buy stuff. Now, the way that you buy stuff is you just get rid of the resources and you gain access to it. So, for instance, I couldn't buy this guy, but this guy is 2 grain, 2 ore, and 2 sheep. So if I had those resources, I would just exhaust them. And the way that you exhaust resources in the game is you just turn the cards so that you show less resources. And then you put that resource in front of you. Now, the way that you put stuff in your city is that each settlement can hold two cards. One on top and one on bottom. If you upgrade your cities to settlements, or your settlements into cities, sorry, then each one can have 2 on each side for a total of 4. So that's pretty important. So that's basically the whole turn. You then draw up to your hand size, which at the beginning is 3, but can be increased by other cards in the game. Just like in the actual game, actual Settlers of Catan game, you can build more settlements, you can build more roads, you can build more cities, all that kind of stuff. Now, when you build a new settlement, you first always have to have roads connecting to those cities. So just like in Catan, you have to have roads connecting your cities, or your settlements. So, for instance, if I wanted to build this way, I could put a road here, and then I could build a settlement over here. And when you build a settlement, you immediately get to build 2 more resources next to it. So you get 2 resources, and you can put them right next to that area. So you get 2. So each city, each settlement should have 4 resources on the diagonals to that source. And this just increases your amount of resources you can buy in a turn, or the amount of resources you can actually use during a turn. Upgrading your settlements into cities, you just pay the city cost and you just put that card on top. That's how you upgrade to a city. Then that's basically the flow of the game. So you roll the die, you play actions, or you gain your resources, you play your actions, buy stuff, all that mumbo jumbo in that phase, and then you draw cards up to your hand size, and then you give the die to the other player. Now let's go over this event die to show what stuff comes on the event. So first off, we have a Year of Plenty, which is this circle here. In that case, each player gains 1 resource of whatever they want to. That's pretty nice. You have the Tournament, which is by this guy, this little knight dude. The units in the game will come with little knight points in the lower right-hand corner. You add those points up, and whoever has the most knight points gets a resource of whatever they want. That's pretty cool. You have a Brigand attack, which is this guy, which is basically the knight in this game. If you have 7 unprotected resources, so if you count up all of the resources in your city or in your civilization, whatever, then you have more than 7 unprotected, then you have to get rid of all of your ore and all of your wood. So instead of discarding what you choose, in this game, you only have to discard wood and ore. The other 2, there are 2 question marks on the event die, and this lets you draw from the event deck which are these guys, and these are just random things that can happen in the game. This one says you have to return some cards to your hand, and your opponent has to choose which card it is. This one is each person gains another resource if they have a certain building next to their resources. So it varies a bunch, and then you reshuffle these once you're done with all of them. Then finally, you have the commerce, which is the windmill. And then if anybody has the windmill token, the windmill victory point token, then they get a resource of their type. Speaking of which, there are 2 victory point tokens in the game. There's the commerce token, which is the windmill, and then you have the knight guy. Now the knight dude is won by whoever has the most strength in their city. So whoever has the most strength in knight points, which is the little hand symbol, gets this guy. And then the person who has the most commerce points, which are built by the purple or the pink buildings, these guys will sometimes have windmill tokens, and the person with the most of those gets access to the windmill token. These both add 2 victory points each. Now, unlike Settlers of Catan, the ending of this is at 12 victory points and not 10. So you have to actually gain 10 victory points in order to win this game. Victory points are gotten through cities, settlements, like normal. Each settlement is 1, each city is 2, and then on some of these cards, you get more resources. You get more victory points. Now let's go over these cards you can get during the game that you have in your hand. First off, you have actions. These cards are played just as actions. They just do stuff. This one is an arsonist. This one lets you roll a d6, and if you get a 1 through 5, then you get to take 2 resources from your opponent. But if you roll a 6, then your opponent gets to take 2 from you. So it's kind of cool. And then there's also counter cards. This says, it's a big bold counter card bishop. What that means is if your opponent has a bishop in play, then you can't play this card on them because it just doesn't work. You then have the green guys, which I've been talking about. These are the units. These are the people in the game, the army in your city. You then also have 2 different types of buildings. First off, you have the pink buildings. These guys can only be played once you have your cities. These can only be built when in the building spaces around a city. The other ones are green buildings, which these basically are resource management kind of stuff. So this one says that on either side of the brick factory, if you have a brick, it produces double. Oh, so building stuff in a certain arrangement helps in this game. Yes, it does. So building strategically is a big part of this game. So you have a bunch of available spots to put stuff, and the positioning of these buildings is a huge factor in the strategy to this game. Let's go for one more, I guess. Let's see what's another one here. Oh, here we go. Wool fleet. There's one of these for I think for resource. This one is basically a trading ship. So this one lets you trade 2 wool for any 1 resource. Normally you can only trade 3 resources of one type for 1 resource of another type. With that you can trade 2 wool for 1 of something else. So that's pretty much the flow of the game. There is a new resource. There's gold, and gold is more valuable. There's a lot more. There's some gold interaction in some of these cards, but that's mostly it. Once somebody hits 12 VP, then the game's over, and that person wins. But what did I think about Catan, the card game? Well, the Catan card game. Some pros about the game. First off, it is extremely portable, which is great for playing Catan, because Catan has a huge board that you have to do, and so this makes it a little makes it pretty small that you can use, that you can transport between place to place. And also a good thing is it actually does resemble Catan pretty well. You feel like you have to get the resources that you need to build certain buildings and that kind of thing, and of course the dice are still there, so that makes it feel just like Catan. So if you want to check out the Catan card game, be sure to go to Best Dang Games for the best online games and services. And until next time, I'll talk to you then.